If you're like me, you've been a fan of Resident Evil since RE4, and like many others, you probably fell in love with the arcade-style gameplay, the over-the-top action scenes, the funny villains, or perhaps it was Leon's one-liners that were so cheesy you could make a grilled cheese sandwich. But for me, it was none of that, because I fell in love at first sight when I saw the lady in red. And yeah, my first question should have been, why is she attacking my boy Leon? But if pressing a gun to your back is her way of flirting, then yeah, I can get behind that. It was such a crazy way to introduce her, and though Leon had obvious history with her, I wanted to know more about this mysterious woman. But as quickly as she dropped in, she vanished in the blink of an eye, because she hit me with a flashbang. And though I enjoy RE4 as a game, that mysterious mercenary is what got me hooked on the franchise. So grab a snack, kick back, and relax as we dive into the enigmatic mindset of Resident Evil's most elusive character, Ada Wong. Resident Evil has always been a quirky franchise. From its humble beginnings with terrible voice acting.
This is the ultimate life form. Tyrant! Chris? Stop it.
To its iconic villains and colorful cast of characters, its core concept remains the same, protecting the world from bioterrorism. Notable heroes like Jill Valentine, Chris and Claire Redfield, and Leon Kennedy have always acted out of a sense of justice and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Of course, they couldn't save everyone, but that never stopped them from trying, always doing what they thought was the right thing. But for some, it's not so black and white, often working in the shadows of the morally gray, and that's what sets Ada apart from her allies, as well as her adversaries. We don't know much about her backstory, but somewhere down the line, Ada saw the world for what it truly was, a global playground plagued by chaos and corruption for the sole purpose of entertaining those in power. And no matter how hard these so-called heroes try to rid the world of evil people, there's always someone new to take their place, looking down from their pedestal with that same sense of superiority over those who are beneath them. How many people did she watch die, sacrificing themselves for the greater good? How many villains did she see perish because of their own ego and foolishness? Far too many to count. So instead of getting swept away in that never-ending cycle of good and evil, Ada chose the one thing that's always constant: cash. And as every mercenary knows, money is power. It never picks a side, always neutral, but a valuable resource for everyone. And that was more than enough motivation for Ada as she carried out her missions, because while some people want to change the world, others just want to survive, and money is a constant companion for those who just want to get by. So for a time, that's all she wanted, all she needed. An endless supply of clients whose greed and lust for power would make anyone lose faith in humanity. But one day, Ada is sent to Raccoon City to retrieve the G-Virus from the pharmaceutical company Umbrella. Just another day in the office. As she makes her way through the zombie-infested war zone amidst the madness and mayhem, her senses as sharp as a licker's claws, her mind as calm and collected as any professional who profits from pure pandemonium. Drawn ever closer to her goal, the undercover agent runs into the cool and composed rookie cop, Leon Kennedy, who's trying to escape the city. But the moment she tells him that the culprits for all this catastrophic conflict is right here in the city, all thoughts of escape fade away like dust in the wind, as his resolve burn away any fear he might have felt moments before. Of course, she refuses any help from Leon and tells him to escape while he still can. It's clear she didn't want him in the way of her investigation. Or perhaps, she didn't want to see another person lose their life in a world they'll never understand. Her own way of protecting the innocent. But of course, Leon doesn't back down, determined to find out who's responsible for all this, with or without her. And though she doesn't show it, I'm sure Ada was caught off guard by this. Because in her line of work, where cash is king and only the selfish survive, it's rare to find someone who truly cares for others, even at the risk of their own safety. And for better or for worse, her mind starts turning, figuring out just how useful Leon can be, and keeping him close on a tight leash of half-truths. But as they fight their way through the miserable monstrosities, barely surviving each encounter, Ada begins to see Leon a little differently. No longer seeing him as just a pawn to keep in her back pocket, but also as a person to protect. Even someone as cold and calculating as Ada couldn't help but soften a little towards someone who truly wants to help her, because pain and hardship binds us together, forming bonds that are hard to break, and going through that hellish nightmare together solidified that in stone. But soon enough, the truth is revealed and reality sets back in. She still had a mission to carry out, and as much as Leon wanted to trust Ada, his inner cop would not let him. And though she'll never admit it, she looked hurt when Leon confronted her. Whatever camaraderie they had was crushed beneath all that deception, both determined to accomplish their own goals. But even with their guns drawn and their world falling apart around them, that sense of betrayal cuts deeper than any bullet ever could. And for the first time in her life, Ada hesitates, even when Leon backs down, but still defiant. The G-Virus, so close at hand, and with a simple pull of the trigger, her mission and this nightmare will finally be over. But no matter how deep we try to bury our moral compass, it always finds its way back to us when we least expect it, and she's no different as she lays her gun down. But as quickly as that moment of clarity came, it was overshadowed with confusion by a bullet from Annette, reminding us what's at stake here. A cop who's trying to save the world, and a mercenary who would watch it burn. But with no hesitation, Leon tries to save Ada, but as he feels her slipping away, it's clear they're worlds apart from each other, where coexistence is impossible. And just like that, she's gone, swallowed into the dark abyss her life has led her to. Ironic for someone who spent her life in the shadows. Of course, this is Ada Wong we're talking about, and somehow, someway, she evades her demise, as if she's done this dance with death before. But before making her exit, she gives Leon a second chance at life as he struggles taking down Mr. X, a rocket launcher, and with that, she calls it even. But deep down, this was more than just returning a favor. This was someone she saw as nothing more than a pawn to get what she wanted, someone who put her mission in jeopardy at the last possible second, someone who put his life on the line to save her, a complete stranger. And though it was only one night together, Leon left Ada with the lesson that'll stick with her. There's always something to fight for and worth protecting, if you can find the good in humanity. A lesson we can all take to heart whenever we feel disillusioned with the state of the world. The many disappointments of hatred, racism, corruption, and war, fueled by the never-ending greed of money and power, would demolish any hope left for humanity. And though some days are harder than others, we have to remind ourselves that it's always worth fighting for something that's bigger than us. And it's made clear when we see Ada again in RE4, once again working for a mysterious employer, Wesker, in hopes of acquiring Las Plagas, a powerful parasite deadlier than the G-Virus, because it lets the host retain their intelligence while granting them superhuman strength and durability. All the benefits, none of the drawbacks, aside from Lord Sattler whispering his weird thoughts in your head.
Sacrificial lamb, you will receive our most sacred body. It begins now.
Having made a deal with Luis Serra, a former Umbrella scientist, her mission is simple. He supplies the sample, she gets him to safety from Los Illuminados. But as life has taught us, nothing ever goes according to plan. And whether it's fate or coincidence, she runs into Leon again, further complicating an already complex situation. And though her top priority is securing the sample, she can't help but get wrapped up in Leon's struggle of keeping Ashley safe, saving him from an early retirement a couple of times. No matter how often she tells herself she's keeping him alive for her own personal gain, it's more than that beneath the surface level shallowness of her supposed selfishness. It's made apparent when she learns that Leon is infected with Las Plagas, going out of her way to gather the needed materials for Luis to produce some medicine. Of course, you could argue that she did it because she was also infected at the time, so it wasn't out of goodwill. And you're right to see it that way. But infected or not, I believe Ada would have done it regardless, based on her actions at the end of RE2. She could have left at that point, washing her hands clean of everything so far. Instead, she went out of her way to secure a weapon strong enough to save his life, all while the entire city is about to be destroyed. Even then, there was no guarantee Leon was going to make it out in time. Ada risked her life just to give him a chance of surviving. As manipulative as she is, almost to the point of absurdity, she's not a megalomaniac who gets off on other people's misery. She's someone who puts her own goals above everyone else's. And if your safety is one of her goals, then it's a very roundabout way of saying she cares. I've been told that Ada is more of an anti-hero because she has a habit of playing both sides of whatever conflict she's in. But I think this is a misrepresentation of her character. I can't speak for the movies because I haven't seen them, but after RE2, it seemed as though she slowly moved away from that mercenary mentality with each game she's in, no longer selling her services simply for the sake of money, but to achieve a higher purpose. At the end of RE4, when Ada finally retrieves the Plaga sample, she's on her way to Wesker. But as soon as he shares a portion of his plans with her, she backs out of their deal. Her conscience couldn't bear the catastrophic consequences of billions of innocent lives sacrificed to the slaughter. So with a gun pointed at the pilot, she changes course, losing her chance of making a profit, but spares the world from a global pandemic. Unfortunately, Wesker still gets a sample from Krauser's body, which led to the issues in RE5, but that's for another video for another day. Ada's change of perspective is similar to that of Jake Muller, another mercenary who became one for the sake of his sick mother, but after she passed away, he had nothing left to fight for, often fighting on both sides of whatever conflict paid the most. His way of surviving, as well as a coping mechanism for what he lost. And after meeting with Sherry and helping her carry out her mission to save millions of innocent lives from the C virus, he sees the world differently. There is more to life than making money, that there are some things worth protecting, a lifelong lesson Ada learned many years prior. It's interesting to watch these cold-hearted characters grow and share their moments of vulnerability, peeling back the many layers that make them who they are. But that's what makes Ada Wong stick out from the other beautiful women of Resident Evil, that sense of seclusion that separates herself at a distance from others as her way of safety and staying in control. And she does it so often that you can't help but feel a little sorry for her because she's never able to fully trust anyone. Where characters like Sheva, Jill, Claire, and Sherry can enjoy the deep trust they have for their comrades, often wearing their hearts on their sleeve, Ada keeps hers close to the vest, never letting anyone get too close, lest they notice the small cracks in her suit of armor. Whether her seclusion is by choice or necessity, I always get a sense of loneliness from her whenever she's on screen, barely noticeable because she hides it well. But it's hard to ignore the fact that although she has allies, she has no one she can truly call a friend. Not even the man who will lay down his life for her doesn't have that honor. Where most people perceive her as a femme fatale, who's cool, collected, and in control of every conflict she's in, I see someone who truly wants to do good and make the world a safer place. But her line of work and life choices convinced her that she has to do so by manipulating both her enemies and allies, much to the frustration of both. Is her way of thinking out of arrogance or necessity? I can't say. But her intentions are always the same, to help out where she can, even when it feels like she's working against you. And even though Ada isn't my favorite character, I can't deny she's probably the most interesting one because of her elusive nature wrapped in mystery that I find both frustrating and yet alluring. I see why Leon can't get over her. She's a woman you'll never forget, no matter how hard you try. But what do you think of everyone's favorite mercenary? Do you like her as a character, or is she unnecessary to have in the series? Do you think she's going to be in Resident Evil 9? Do you want her to be in Resident Evil 9? Please, feel free to share your thoughts. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and please, feel free to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the conversation. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.